On the Minnesota invasion. Can we call it a Minnesota invasion?
I wouldn't say it's an invasion. We're not coming to run anybody out. We're coming to create our own unique brand and develop our own wrestling fans here in Minnesota, and that's what we're on our way to do.
That's right. Watch out, competition. We'll run you out of town. You know, I do love performing, but I do have a knack for what happens behind the scenes. You know, for the creative aspect of it. I mean that's where I've gotten more success in wrestling in the last few years. So there, I just sidestepped your question.
All right. We're here with the hot shot, Danny Duggan. How are you doing tonight, Danny?
I'm doing good. Somebody beat the shit out of me. Like 3 guys did, so I'm a little beat up, a little rough, but I'll manage to live another day.
I survived here with Jimmy Jacobs. Team with Jimmy Jacobs. How are you tonight?
Am I in frame? Was I in frame before? Did you get a 3 shot of that, or was it a 2 shot? Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, it's fine. No, just get the 2 shot. Get the 2 shot.
Danny, you've been promoting down here in Minnesota. How long has it been?
This is the 3rd show for Midwest Wrestling's Elite. And I shouldn't say I'm the promoter, because I'm not the promoter of Midwest Wrestling's Elite. I'm just lending some creative genius and some likeness to our Canadian brand, Canadian Wrestling's Elite, on the Canadian side of the border.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Interesting. That's my fault. But interesting to clarify everything and see what's going on.
Well, it's a common misperception people have, because I operate CWE out of Canada. It's MWE. It's the same logo. Essentially, it is the sister company of what we're doing up there, and that's essentially why I was brought on board with Midwest Wrestling's Elite, because the promoter here really enjoyed, you know, from afar seeing what we were doing up there and wanted to see if we can duplicate it down here in the U.S. So that's what we're trying to do.
Very, very interesting. This is new. This is breaking news. I am excited. Like, I hope you all can see how excited I am right here, because you have done a lot with in Canada. Can you tell us, people who don't know, let them know?
Well, CWE, we're just celebrating now our 10th anniversary. So in 2009, we started as a monthly wrestling show in the city of Winnipeg. And as I sit before you here today, we're getting ready to embark on a 38-day tour across Canada that covers pretty much the entire country minus a little bit. So it's expanded rapidly in 10 years. We have talent coming in from all over the world. Like this next tour, we've got guys representing 7 countries coming to Canada to be a part of what we're doing. And in 10 years, we've hosted, you know, literally the who's who of professional wrestling. If they've been available to be on a wrestling show in Canada, we've probably had them up at some point. So we've really changed the game up there, because before we started running CWE, it was local wrestling, and that's pretty much what you got. You know, maybe once or twice a year a promoter would bring in a headliner from somewhere else, but it wasn't very common because we're kind of isolated and geographically in the middle of nowhere in terms of the wrestling world. So we wanted to change that, because at that point I'd been traveling a lot as a wrestler myself and just seeing the way it was working down here with the style of wrestling and the different talent that was coming in, and I figured if we did that up there, we'd be able to kind of spark a match and create some magic, and that's what we've done.
Awesome. Yeah, the list of people that you've been able to bring in to help draw on just the local talent, just everything you've done. It's not easy to put on wrestling shows. You see wrestling companies die every day, I think, and it's not easy. So I believe your track record speaks for itself. It's an honor to have you here talking with us.
Well, thank you. And that was another reason, you know, you mentioned, you know, being geographically in the middle of nowhere, there's so many talented guys up there in Canada. And, you know, say you go back 20, 30 years ago, you know, Stampede Wrestling was a staple of Canadian wrestling that everybody was familiar with because of the Hearts and Dynamite Kid and the British Bulldog and that whole era. But somewhere along the way, that kind of got lost. I think, you know, Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit were kind of the last flag bearers of the country on a national level, maybe Edge Christian. But for, you know, the last 10, 15 years, it's been pretty quiet. And then, you know, a guy by the name of Kenny Omega started to hit it big, and he's from Winnipeg, and he's somebody I broke in with. And Don Callis, Jimmy's good friends from Winnipeg, running Impact Wrestling. Chris Jericho's making waves. He's another Winnipeg boy. And, you know, obviously they're the best in their field at what they do, but there's a lot of guys really good just like them up where we are. So we're kind of tucked away in a little secret. So we kind of wanted to bring that to the forefront, because being from Winnipeg, I can attest it's not necessarily economically friendly to be bringing in wrestlers from my area to different parts of the world. So we just wanted to kind of create opportunity for talent to come come in and work with our guys so we can kind of get exposure and get experience working with them and hopefully get them out. And that's been a big part of what we've done, and it's created a lot of opportunity for guys that just didn't exist before.
Jimmy, 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 Jimmy. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yes. Zombie Princess.
Let's go, Jimmy!
Who's a couple Canadian wrestlers right now that you would say are slept on, or some people, some of you fans should check out that maybe they don't know yet?
Some of the guys, they come down here for MWE. The Canadian Crusher AJ Sanchez is probably one of the most talented big men in Canada, if not the most talented big man. He's 340 pounds. He moves like he's 140 pounds. Super charismatic. He's just a great all-around entertainer. And it's funny because he often gets compared to Kevin Owens, and we used to say that in the early 2000s, like when Kevin Owens was first getting his big break, like. Hey, they could be the same person in a lot of ways with their their ability as performers and their wrestling ability and things of that nature. He just didn't go on the right path to get that same exposure for himself. So we have a lot of guys that are like that just need that opportunity. A guy by the name of Menslow, who's been down here for MWE, he's been in the main event of the first two shows, just an absolute in-ring classics with Roy Gordon. He's a guy we built our company around in the early years of CWE's inception. So he's been a big part of our plan here to do the same down here. A 20-year veteran who's traveled around the world, just hasn't got that big break in the United States yet. So we're hoping to bring him down here to kind of create that same success for himself that he's been able to do in Mexico and Japan and across Canada.
No, Jimmy! Oh, Jimmy! No, Jimmy!
Danny Duggan, you're known to be jacked and fanny packed. Any workout tips you could have to say somebody whose arms look like this to perhaps look like that? I mean, it's going to take some years, but any tips you could?
You just nailed it. It's taking some years. So now that I'm old, I don't have to do it as much anymore. You got to go really hard for a few years, and you can just coast. Just keep that eating in check a little bit and go do a light work. Yeah, you'll be okay.
Excellent, excellent. Some memorable matches from your career. Can you share with the fans?
Oh man, that's a good question. Well, this guy sitting beside me, he's probably one of my favorite opponents, and that's why everywhere I go, he's usually not too far behind because I'm trying to get him there as well. Because I really enjoy working with Jimmy Jacobs, AJ Sanchez, like I mentioned. I got to work with Omega a lot before he got his big break too, and he was one of my favorite opponents in the sense that he's so talented and so talented, creative, and intelligent that he would always make you step outside your comfort zone and do things you normally wouldn't try with anybody else. But he would give you the confidence that you can believe in yourself and go and do it. So there's stuff I would do in matches with him I've never done since or would attempt with anybody else. But he was so talented, he can cover you up and make you look a lot better than you really were. So he was one of my favorite guys to work with as well. Another Canadian, Michael Elgin, was one of my favorite opponents too before he relocated to the U.S. We had a lot of really good matches across Canada. So some of those matches would probably be my favorite.
Oh, come on! Oh, no!
He's like 200 pounds!
Any social media, keep up with Danny Duggan or CWE and what you're up to?
CWE can be found on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at CWE Canada, all one word. And then for myself, I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Snapchat now at Hotshot Danny Duggan.
Excellent, excellent. Anything else coming up or anything else you want to talk about?
Well, we covered the 38-day tour. That's coming up in Canada. But down here, this is something we're really excited about because not only have we been able to do what we've done in Canada, we've been able to do it with maybe some of the talent that's not available because of the location down here, whether it be scheduling or inability to maybe cross the Canadian border. There's some talent I haven't had access to that I would love to have up there that's just never going to happen. So this has just completely opened up a whole new box for me to play with. So I'm really excited, going into the locker room tonight and seeing wrestlers come from Illinois, coming from Wisconsin, coming from Iowa, coming from Canada. So just to kind of be a melting pot, kind of like we created there. I think MWE is really going to be something to look out for. Tonight was by far our most successful show yet. We still have a long way to go, but just knowing where we came from and where we've gotten with CWE, I'm very, very confident just with the locker room alone that we're going to be able to do things here, especially being in a bigger market with more eyes on wrestling here in Minneapolis and the surrounding area. That it's going to be something to keep an eye out for.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I had a great time tonight. Great lineup with everything going on. We get to see this guy over here a little bit as well. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Hello.
The zombie princess. Where does the zombie princess come from?
I mean, where do I live?
What are the origins?
Wait, of the name or where I live or where I was born?
The name, right? How did you become the zombie princess?
So it's from a promo I did, right? So I was wrestling Kevin Owens, formerly Kevin Steen, right? And he had made fun of my nail polish, my eyeliner, and basically I'd said, all right, look, I don't need to look tough. I don't need to dress tough. I don't need to talk tough because I am tough. I can put on a tutu and tiara, call myself a princess. I'll still be the toughest motherfucker in the room because just when you think I'm dead, I come back to life like a zombie. So on March 4th, get ready to get your ass handed to you by the motherfucking zombie princess. Like that.
Come on, man. Now, what have you been up to lately, sir?
I work for Impact Wrestling now. I'm on that creative team there, and I also I was here at MWE tonight. I was in Austin, Texas last night for AEW. And next week we have the Impact tapings in Las Vegas, and the week after, I'm wrestling. I'm part of the wrestling business. Kind of been doing that for the past 20 years.
Awesome, busy man. What do you prefer more, wrestling or behind the scenes?
Oh man, I do love performing, but I do have a knack for what happens behind the scenes. For the creative aspect of it. I think that's where I've gotten more success in wrestling in the last few years. So there, I just sidestepped your question.
Excellent, beautiful. We got to talk to P.D. Brown, who had some experience booking as well. Any favorite moments as a writer behind the scenes?
My favorite. I'm sorry, I'm just doing some stuff here. I'm sorry. I feel like an asshole. Like, I'm just on my phone, barely paying attention. But I didn't expect to be in this interview. I was just sitting along with it. Doing the Festival of Friendship with Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho, the segment where Kevin turned on Chris, that was the kind of the pinnacle of my WWE career. I worked on the whole, me, Chris, and Kevin just did that whole story for that whole time. It was so much fun, and doing the list of Jericho was so much fun, and then the culmination with really that turn, and then that was good. That was a good day, man. It was a good day.
Awesome, man, a lot of fun. I know a lot of us like to sit out there and pretend, if I was the booker, I'd get to do this and that, and not many people get to do what these guys get to do, and to have the success that these guys have had. Anything currently with Impact that you're really excited to be working on?
I mean, let's see, man. Just this past week on TV, we had the rematch between LAX and Penta and Phoenix. The match they had at the pay-per-view, at the last pay-per-view did in January, Homecoming, was just awesome. You watch those guys perform, and you're like, okay, this is where it's going. This is the future of what the in-ring product's gonna look like. It doesn't go backwards, man. People think you can just do what you used to. It's like, no, man, it goes forwards. I can't keep up with those guys, but I was watching that match, and not to say there can't be different styles, but you see the direction it's heading when you watch those two teams perform.
Yeah, very excited. I've seen they just announced Rob Van Dam and Sabu taking on.
Man, Rob Van
I was very excited as an old ECW mark. I was excited. Is that WrestleMania weekend as well?
Right, WrestleMania weekend on April 4th, right outside New York City, New Jersey. Rob Van Dam and Sabu versus Penta and Phoenix,
Wow.
man. Yeah. They
Yeah.
just announced it. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Nice. Very excited about that. Well, Danny, I thank you for allowing this opportunity, bringing this man here or having a role somewhere in there. I'm glad we've somewhat hopefully clarified what MWE is as they start here to embark on the Minnesota invasion. Can we call it a Minnesota invasion?
I wouldn't say it's an invasion. We're not coming to run anybody out. We're coming to create our own unique brand and develop our own wrestling fans here in Minnesota, and that's what we're on our way to do.
That's right. Watch out, competition. We'll run you out of town. Like he said.
Beautiful. Hot shot, Danny Duggan.
Thank you, my man.
Thank you for taking some time out of your day. Zombie Princess Jimmy Jacob, too busy tweeting and being cool.
On Tinder.
He's a busy man.
Just like,
He's got a lot of jobs. He's a busy guy. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Four-time champ.
Jimmy.
I am the unprofessional professional wrestler, the Zombie Princess, Jimmy Jacobs, here with the love of my life, Lacey, and you're watching the state of pro wrestling.
SOPW.
This is Joey Ryan, and you're watching the State of Pro Wrestling.